Welcome back to the channel, guys. Another It's Tadpole MMA UFC prediction breakdown video using the Verdict app as my template as I go through. Quickly recap last weekend. I say it like that because it was a rough event. We went 3-3, only hitting 50%. We did cash at only underdog selection, which was Sean Strickland. He was an underdog on Verdict, which was massive value. As he was the betting favourite. So loved that play. As for the betting, we lost the multi and we only had 2 single plays, but we lost them both as well. So down 3 units. Not good at all. As for those singles, I had Ryan Benoit via knockout. He just got his leg chopped the fuck up. He did drop Adeshev in the first round and was close to finishing the fight, but to his credit, Zaruk, survived that. And edged the fight out pretty clearly. The other bet, it was Strickland via knockout. It always felt live. He did hurt Uriah on numerous occasions, but he didn't really put it together or get super aggressive like we have seen him do previously. He did what he had to do to win. He shut down Uriah's offense with that forward pressure, took away the kicking game, but wasn't really sitting down on his shots at all, which he did talk about post-fight in the press conference. So, yeah, not a good play in the end. My best call of the night, it was a late addition to the Verdict slate because, the card got ripped to shreds. Had Melsik Bagdasarian via knockout. It's actually the only method that I ended up getting correct. You would have had to be on my socials to get that call, which are all in the description. But yeah, that was a nice collect and a lovely head kick knockout as well. So yeah, keen to see who he fights next. He seems to be an exciting prospect. Worst call of the night, Brian Barberena, a 1.29 times favourite on Verdict. He did not fight at his price whatsoever. I only gave him that 3rd round. His takedown defense looked terrible. He didn't really set a pace either and was actually getting tagged by Jason Witt on the feet, which is a terrible look. Really poor performance by him, poor predicting on my part. But anyway, this week we've got one formula bet. You'll have to wait for that one. We've got 4 single plays and the multi as per usual. So without further ado, let's hit the bottom of the Verdict card, which is the prelim headliner, Bobby Green versus Rafael Fisaev. Bobby Green 4.02 times and $3.40. Fisaev 1.33 times and $1.28. At these odds, man, I really want to hit Bobby Green. He's an outstanding fighter. He's super confident in his skill set. He has very good boxing. And he is very active with the hands. He's got good footwork and good head movement. He fights with the low guard. He always has. It does free up his offensive angles, but it does leave him a little exposed at times, especially to really fast, powerful strikers. Rafael Fisaev is exactly that. The speed in which he throws strikes, in particular his kicks, it's ridiculous. And the power that he throws in through his lower half, it's sickening. He also has power in the hands, of course. Bobby's low guard, I don't think it's going to be the be-all or end-all of this fight. Bobby's very durable. He can take good shots. But I do think that Fisaev can hurt him, to the legs, body, and the head. Rafael mixes it up so well. He really does. To talk some other aspects, though, Bobby Green, he loves to pressure. It's just the way that he fights. I do expect him to try and get Fisaev backing up for the most part. Try and take away the kicking game somewhat, Maybe even target the legs himself. We have seen him go to it at times, but, he's not that consistent with the lower half attacks. I just think that Rafael's going to be able to counter him, counter him all night and then, damage Bobby and get back to the middle to take up some space himself, Another aspect, Bobby Green, he does also look to grapple. He's got solid wrestling and a good ground game. He's got 9 pro wins via submission. But Fisaev's a really strong lightweight. He's got great defensive wrestling. He hasn't been taken down in the UFC before, and you know them guys at Tiger Muay Thai, they're grappling coaches, the Hickman brothers, really good wrestlers out of America. They've got a good program over there, and you know Rafael Tiger Muay Thai, he has a Muay Thai base. He loves to clinch, and through that skill, he has shown his grappling strength in his ability to hold that Thai guard and control opponents whilst maintaining his balance. So, all in all, I am entertained by Bobby's price, both on verdict and the bookies, but it's Vasayev for mine. I think the speed difference is going to be evident. I think the power and the damage potential is going to be evident as well. And I don't think the pressure that Bobby brings is going to get to Rafael as it has done some previous opponents. And, you know, I don't think Bobby's going to be able to neutralise the stand-up with his wrestling. And he's probably going to get beaten up in the clinch when he does try and get a hold of Rafael. So, Vasayev via decision at 4.10 times. I think it's a great price considering Bobby's durability, you know. And the fact Vasayev's obviously a powerful guy, but he has only notched one finish at this higher UFC level. So, I think that's a great play. Bottom of the main card now. Song Yadong versus Casey Kenny. Song Yadong 1.66 times and $1.95. Casey Kenny 2.51 times and $1.85. This is a fucking good matchup and really, really close. I like both of these guys. Casey Kenny, I like his movement. You know, he loves to come forward and press. He's a very, very active fighter. His volume's through the roof. He works the legs consistently. It's always a feature of his fights, and he sets it up too. He's smart. He kicks across the legs to force his opponent into whatever direction he wants. You know, he's going to kick with the lead or the back leg, and then it sets up his boxing entries or his grappling entries as he squeezes his opponent into the narrower parts of the cage. Song Yadong, primarily a boxer. You know, he can tend to headhunt a little, but man, when he rips the body, he has big power in his fists, and you know he gets such good momentum through his hips. He's got great uppercuts and great hooks. Kenny's definitely going to have to mind his P's and Q's when he enters range, you know, especially when he lowers his head to get in on the hips, because Song can hit them angles for sure. But I think the fact that Song sits down on his shots so much, you know, really wanting to knock you out with every punch, it does play into Kenny's favour a little bit. You know, it means the legs are going to be there to be smashed. It means Yadong is going to be less agile when he has to retreat, because he's going to have to retreat. He's going to have to move his feet, otherwise Kenny's going to land his own shots or takedowns at will. And, you know, getting Song on the back foot, it's going to really upset his offensive rhythm and reads. You look at the stats as well. Song's takedown defense, it's not great. 56%. He's been taken down 10 times in his last 3 fights, at least 2 times in each of those fights. So it's just another area that Kenny can go to in order to swing this his way, because he can definitely lean on that to sap those powerful arms and that power from Song, you know, make him grapple. I do think that Yadong can knock Kenny out, and I don't mind that play. But Casey, you know, he's never been put out through 19 pro fights, and then also he had 3 amateur bouts. He's never even been dropped in the UFC. You know, there are no obvious reasons to question his durability. So I'm siding with him. I think he can out-volume, out-grapple, and pressure Yadong towards a decision victory. 3.24 times on verdict. That is the play. Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill. Tisha Torres, the verdict underdog, 2.54 times, but the betting favourite, $1.72. Angela Hill, 1.65 times on verdict, but $2.10 on the comeback at the bookies. These girls, they've fought before. Tisha Torres, the tiny tornado, she won that fight by unanimous decision. She did more on the feet, you know, proved to be the more versatile striker, and she out-grappled Angela Hill. You know, she controlled her on the ground and in the clinch, which was a surprising factor considering Tisha Torres' size. You know, she's a very, very small fighter. As for since then, both girls have fought plenty of times. Torres has fought 11 more on 11 more occasions, and Angela Hill 15 more times. You know, we've seen progressions from both. And I'd say Angela Hill, she's never looked better. She has taken steps up in competition and, in my opinion, handled it well. 2 close fights against Gedalia and Waterson. Both losses on the resume, but the Gedalia decision was an absolute robbery. And the Michelle Waterson fight, it could have gone either way. She really patched up her takedown defense. And then she did return to the win column last time out against Ashley Yoder. As for Tecia Torres, a couple of years ago, she was on a mean losing streak. She's back on track now with 2 straight wins. And, I can say it for her as well. She's never looked better. She put a beating on Sam Hughes in her last fight, dispatched her in the first round. Really putting together her striking combinations, targeting all 3 zones, landing everything she threw. I think she put out over 100 significant strikes in 5 minutes. And, you look at her resume, 5 losses. It's not so bad for women's MMA. But you read a little deeper and you see who they're against. Rose Namajunas, Jessica Andrade, Joanna, Weili Zhang, and Marina Rodriguez. Angela Hill, she's not in the same caliber as those fighters. Her striking, it's nowhere near as slick as Rose's, JJ's, all Marina's. She doesn't have the physical attributes of those women, and she's nowhere near as physically imposing as Weili or Andrade, and the wrestling that those girls have. I think Angela struggles here. I think she gets touched up at range. Angie, she's got a nice jab, but she isn't the fastest of strikers, and she doesn't hit the body or legs too consistently. Whereas Tecia, she is very fast. She's got really fast footwork, and she uses all of her weapons incredibly well. I don't think that she's going to have the same success in the grappling department in this fight as their first, because Angie, her takedown defense, it's much improved, and she's the bigger girl. And to be honest, I think it would be wise for Tecia to avoid those clinch scenarios, as I think Angie, she definitely has the potential to reverse position there and get off good work herself. But on the outside, it's Tecia all day. I think she's going to be hitting Angie with something at all times. She has the speed to get inside that range disadvantage and then make it count by striking in combinations. So I've got Torres to win a decision at 3.05 times. Definitely a good price for a women's strawweight fight. Torres, 12 of her pro fights, she's 12 pro wins, 10 of them have been via decision. I like the play. Next fight along, an absolute banger. Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque. Chiesa 2.01 times and $1.90. Vicente Luque 1.99 times and $1.90. The bookies can't split them. It's an intriguing welterweight matchup. It is a banger because it's high level. But the style, it might not play out that way. Chiesa's a little lackluster. But we'll get into that. Chiesa's last fight, we cashed him at $2 against Neil Magny. That was earlier this year. I definitely have some love for the bloke. And like I aforementioned, his fighting style, it does cop a lot of criticism. I do get it. He doesn't have the most entertaining skill set. But he knows how to get it done. His mentality is great. He knows what he does well, and he knows how to edge out fights. And what he does well, it's no secret. He's a strong grappler, and he's a fucking massive frame. He uses his strength well. He has great balance from top position, and then a handy submission game to boot. Where the criticism comes from is his lack of action. He's very accustomed to controlling positions, not actively seeking subs very frequently, nor hitting damaging ground and pound. But he's typically winning his fights doing what he does, so the crowd can boo all they want, I suppose. Someone that the crowd never boos is Vicente Luque, his opponent. This guy is the opposite to Chiesa in terms of action. That's all he brings. He's an absolute animal in the cage. He's a heavy-handed striker, very, very tight boxing, solid leg kicks, and a nasty submission game as well when guys want to get tangled up with him. His volume is through the roof. He's explosive, and although he does get tired, he can keep that output just going through 3 rounds, for sure. On the feet, Michael Chiesa, he's going to have nothing for Luque. In fact, the striking, it's a real concern for Chiesa. He's going to get lit the fuck up, whether that be at range or punches distance. He knows that. We know that. Can Luque put the lights out when they're on the feet? Absolutely. But do I think Chiesa can take Luque down, on multiple occasions? I absolutely do as well. And although Luque has found finishes in the later rounds, he's definitely not a points fighter. He is 2 wins, 5 losses when his fights reach the cards. And Chiesa's definitely going to have that grappling-based cardio to secure rounds and take this one if the judges need to get involved. He's 7-0 on decisions as a pro, which is a very likely outcome of this fight, a Chiesa decision. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I cannot see that gap in the striking being a very, very big problem, because it is. It's a big problem. I think Luque is going to hurt Chiesa. Since moving to welterweight, Michael, he has not faced a formidable striker with this sort of power. And I'm really liking a Luque finish. And you know what? That's it. I'm taking a Luque submission in round 2 at 15.83 times. I do feel like we're getting shorted on this price a little bit with Luque coming off of a submission win over Tyron Woodley, but I do still like the play. Chiesa, he's only been slept once, his chin, it's solid, but I think he will get cracked, and he is going to get desperate on those takedowns. If he gets Luque flat on his back, he's going to be relatively safe. He is so dominant from that spot, but in the transition time, when his head is low and in on the hips for a single or a double, that's going to be danger all day for Vicente's frontside chokes. Especially if Chiesa is shooting in on them compromised. That's literally how Luque gets his submission wins. He hurts his opponent and then they fall into a frontside choke, whether that be, a variation of an arm triangle or the guillotine. So I like it. I do. And I'll be specific. I'm going to take Luque by a second round DAS or a Bravo. So when that happens, you can look at your friends on the couch or at the bar, wherever you may be, and just tell them at the Tadpole, he told you. Co-main event, Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munoz. Jose Aldo 1.48 times and $1.90. Pedro Munoz 3.07 times and $1.90. Another fight that the bookies cannot separate. And I see why, man. I've flipped on this fight a couple of times now. I'm having serious trouble with it. So let's talk through it. Aldo, he's a legend. He has fought so much elite competition. His skill set, he's a striker with incredible takedown defense. I do not see him getting taken down in this matchup. I see this being purely striking. Aldo, he's got power, massive power. He rips the body. His boxing, it's fantastic. And his kicking game is so dangerous. His leg kicks are notoriously damaging. And he's very, very fast. He's come down from featherweight, but that speed, that is still evident at bantamweight. He is quicker than most of these bantamweights. And that really helps his counter game. His counters are elite. He is so good to watch. Pedro Munoz. Like I said, I don't think he is as fast as Aldo, nor is he the same size. Aldo's massive at 135, so Pedro, he's at a disadvantage in both of those key areas. However, he pressures really well. He has a much better output than Aldo does. And Pedro, he also mixes it up a lot. His leg kicks are good. He throws them very frequently. People say that he has a good counter game. I'm opposed to that. I don't really think so. I think he much prefers to be on the front foot and setting the pace. Aldo's got a much better counter game. But as for Pedro setting the pace, I think Aldo is probably going to let him do that, which it's not all that wise for Jose, because this is the type of fight against a guy like Munoz that if you start behind, you just may never bridge that gap, because Pedro, he can do that all 3 rounds. Shit, he can do it for 5. Being relentless with his output, and he's got the conditioning to do it, Aldo, he has fought 5 rounds countless times, and his cardio was as good as it gets at one point, but I don't think that's the case any longer. Munoz, he has a conditioning edge in my opinion, and yeah, there are a couple of things worrying me here. Firstly, Jose's last fight, against Chito Vera, he was looking very good, and then in the third round, he just wanted nothing to do with the striking at all. He backpacked Chito for the majority of the round. He was happy to get touched up with little behind the ear shots. I get it, he had a dominant spot, but he wasn't really doing anything with it. It was strange. It was like he didn't want to be at range with Chito or pressured by Chito. Just made me think twice here in this matchup. And then another thing worrying me on the other side for Munoz, it's the Aljamain Sterling fight. He got absolutely worked on the feet against a guy with really similar dimensions to Aldo, but a way lesser technical striker than Aldo. He absorbed so many head strikes. It was ludicrous. So yeah, I've got concerns going for either fighter. This is honestly such a toss-up. What I do see though, I see a very entertaining fight. But as for who gets the nod, I'm quite uncertain. But I'm taking Jose Aldo, and I'm taking him via a decision at 2.08 times. Jose's going to be in a lot of trouble here if he's on the retreat too frequently and not hitting his counters early. He needs to tag Pedro in that first round off the back foot. Let him feel that power and make sure he doesn't just walk him down the whole time. Otherwise, he's likely going to get out volume to a decision loss. But that's essentially what this prediction is based on. I'm backing Jose to hit those counters. I fancy his speed, power, and counter game to do so. Manage to retrieve that space, meet back in the middle, work the body and the legs, and put it all together. A win over Pedro at this stage, where Munoz is, it's going to be super impressive if Aldo can achieve that. All things considered, Munoz is an elite bantamweight. What he just did to Jimmy Rivera, incredibly impressive. I hold Jimmy Rivera in very high regard. So, yeah, this is a very high level 135 slating. So, a very good main event. To precursor this heavyweight interim championship bout. Main event. Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gane. Derek Lewis 2.04 times a short verdict underdog, but $4 at the bookies. Cyril Gane 1.96 times on verdict, but $1.22. And you guys already know. It's the fucking formula. I feel like it's holding me against my will. I'm a prisoner to the formula. I'm taking Derek Lewis. The numbers say so. The in-the-know public, the verdict community, they rate Derek's chances. They rate Derek's chances so much higher than the bookies do. And for that fact, it is a big enough discrepancy that I am riding with the public on huge underdog bookie numbers with the Black Beast. 37% perceived edge on this money line. I don't want to get into this fight breakdown, Yes, it's the main event. Yes, it's for interim gold. And yes, it's a fantastic matchup. But breaking down these skill sets, they're only going to point in one direction. And it's towards Cyril Gane. He's the better technical striker. He has the better footwork, better defense, better range management, better volume, better conditioning, offensive grappling to lean on, a submission game to speak of. Derek Lewis has the power. To be fair, Derek Lewis is also a technical striker. He has solid kicks. I feel like he has underrated speed in his hands when he lets them go for such a big guy. And he does have the angles and makes good reads off of his back foot. The counter uppercut that he landed on Curtis Blades was an absolutely sickening punch. One of the grossest knockouts inside the cage this year, at minimum. One of the grossest knockouts I've seen in a long while. And that's what I'm relying on. Lewis, he's not going to outpoint a decision over Gane. That'd be crazy talk, Gane's an absolute beast and I love him. I love that guy. But it's Lewis via knockout in the second round at 2.22 times. Fuck, I am making a meal of this last fight, but I suppose I'm a bit flustered with all that's gone on. 2.22 times. Second round knockout. The second round play, 7 of Derek's 20 knockouts are in the second. He can find them at any time, anywhere. Gane, undefeated fighter. Obviously never been slept, so there's no data there. That's that. Let's get into the bets. Let's wrap this up. UFC 265. 4 single plays. They're only late in the card, so you have to wait for them. But the first of 4, I'm taking Vicente Luque by a knockout, submission, or disqualification at $3 on Bet365. If he wins, it's likely a finish. I rate him to win. I think he can get it done on the feet, obviously, and on the mat. I like it. A half unit. A Tadpole half unit. A rarity these days, but you're getting one. It's Luque via submission at $15 on Ladbrokes. I think this price is far too high. For reasons all mentioned above. But just the 0.5 unit on that one. The next single, it is the formula. Derek Lewis on the money line at $4 on Sportsbet. Like I've mentioned, that is a 37% perceived edge. For those of you that know the formula, anything above 20%, the Tadpole hits. And hits at an okay clip. We are in the green on the formula bets since March. So, and not that we were in the red prior to that, it was just the formula. The inaugural formula betting started in March. Not much to it. The last single play of the evening. It's a double chance. It's Lewis via knockout, by and large his win condition, but security on Gane via submission at $4.10 on Ladbrokes. This is putting a lot of faith in the Lewis knockout. The Gane sub, it is the most unlikely of his methods, but 3 of his 9 wins via submission. He's going to have a grappling advantage. Derek Lewis has been proven difficult to submit, but when he is gassed, Gane is definitely going to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants on the mat with this guy. So I don't mind it getting a bit of security there. The multi, 4 legs at $20.51 on Ladbrokes. Taking Tisha Torres by decision, Luque by finish, Aldo on the money line, and the Cyril Gane Derek Lewis fight to not go the distance. Like I said, $20.51 on Ladbrokes. All of those legs are self-explanatory. I'll give you guys some reasoning for the fight, for the main event to not go the distance. Only 9 of their 42 combined pro fights have reached the scorecards. That means that 79% of their fights end via finish. I do agree, if anyone's counter-arguing me here, that Gane has been patient recently, not necessarily fighting to finish. This fight, it's for interim gold against Derek Lewis, who, when he loses, usually gets finished. I think if Derek doesn't find the knockout shot, Cyril Gane is going to have every chance to find his own knockout or that submission that my fingers are crossed for the single play. He's going to have the wrestling edge, grappling advantage, superior jiu-jitsu, and Derek Lewis can tend to get extremely tired, and that lack of tank late, Cyril Gane could definitely either finish him on the feet, pound him out on the ground, or sink and choke, or any other variety of submission. He could definitely have his way with the Black Beast. Anywho, that is that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. About to hit the half an hour. That is a good timestamp, I believe. If you are chasing records of any variety, all in the description. Socials, all in the description. In case there are any late changes or the Tadpole likes what he sees as more props get released by the bookmakers. If you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Let's open up a communication channel down there. Other than that, guys, I'll see you on the next one, and catch up.